Welcome back, you filthy exiles. As you'll notice, I got a different chair because I was spear throwing so hard that my chair blew up. So here we are. I'm waiting for the next one, and we're sitting on a not comfortable chair. Anyway, let's get into the video. So while everyone's been whinging about Path of Exile 2, they don't like it and all the stuff, right, valid points, 100% agree with everything, posted plenty of videos in point 1. Not going to rehash that because instead of whinging about the game, I decided to simply just learn how to master how to make builds, right? So the problem that people are running into is they can't play the same old crap that they always play. And I'm going to challenge you and say, play something different that's interesting. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So Spear of Kitava, where are we at? Well, we are consistently able to farm T15 maps now with no issues. That's like a non-juiced map. To evidence that we have 14 drops here and we just breached 15. Do I care about this right now? I'm sort of progressing it, but at the moment I'm just blasting rare maps, right? So yellow tier, yellow maps in red tier. Basically this build has a lot of stuff going on to get it to work. I did manage to get my 3rd Ascendancy this afternoon, so I do have 4 points allocated. I ended up using Trials of Sekhmet. Now, there's a patch that's coming out next week that's going to reduce the total level from 75 to 65 for Trials of Chaos, which is going to be easier to do than Trials of Sekhmet. Sekhmet, I was like barely able to. Basically, all I was doing was using Spear Field to keep enemies away from me, and that's basically all I can do as a melee character, right, or a semi-melee character. Now, how does this build work? Now, I'll go through the gems in the gem segment, so if you want to skip ahead, do that. All the timestamps will be below, and there'll be a Mobalytics update and also a POB update. So all the information you need to be able to thread everything together is going to be in there. Currently, tooltip is sitting around, what's that, 29,000 before buff, and it hits up to like 47,000, 50,000, something like that. Noting it's only on a 5 link and it's only level 18. So we have +4, which means it can go as high as level 26 when it's at 20, level 20, which means, what's that? No, 24? No, 26. No, 24. 24. I can't do math. All right, so basically, yeah, we get a huge damage multiplier as it starts to move towards level 30. I haven't yet figured out what I'm going to do to push it further. I think I'll just do gem level because that seems to scale really well with explosive spear. Now, the combination is basically you're going to use your spear field, right? You're going to drop this down multiple times before you start the fight. This is going to, and by the way, we're tanky enough to do that. We have 75% block. We've got 47% armor, but we got flat damage reduction from our build. We're overcapped because of our Ascendancy, and we do 275 life regeneration, which we're going to try and get up to 500 now. So we're going to push this up in places. and continue to overcap. Our last ascendancy will mean that all of our resistances will basically be at like 85%, something like that. And we have to change a lot of stuff out still to fix up chaos res and things like that. So this is by far not perfect. The life pool is still a bit low, so I want to get it over 3,000 ideally. And yeah, that should make us pretty tanky. Anyway, this is a very Jorgen build, right? This is like just base tanking crap. Now, we do use some other mechanics to exploit. Not exploit's not the right word, but we use some other stuff to basically get around defense. Now, one thing I realized was like, yeah, you could run like the life regeneration aura. It's cool, but it's not offensive, right? It doesn't do anything. So basically, Wind Dancer. Now, one would think like, I have 0 evasion, right? Why the hell would you run Wind Dancer, right? Well, Wind Dancer has a really good setup when you're playing a max block tank. So basically, we can use it to 100% blind enemies because it has an on-hit effect. So basically, it uses Gale Force when it builds stacks and it's constantly proccing, right? So it's 1,790. I actually believe with Thorns, we can make this wild. Like, this is something that we can work on, you know, at some point in time. I think we can make a Thorns build with this. But anyway, that's something else that we'll consider for maybe a second build. If you want to see that, I'll try it. We're probably going to use, like, just a block, like, mechanic, magma spray, and then run this and just have an almost an auto bomber, right? I think we can make a Thorns based auto bomber. Anyway, that's an idea. If you want to see me try and attempt that build, let me know in the description below. I'm not going to be playing Last Epoch. I'll be playing Path of Exile 2 because I'm committing to this. Now, basically, Wind Dancer goes off constantly when you're taking constant hits because it stacks up really quickly. As the gem level goes up, it gains a stage every 1.16 seconds, and it goes up as you percentage that and whatnot. And I still have a long ways to go with this. So we do 100% blind. Now we do get blind off the node on the tree down here, right? So we get blind off Sand in the Eyes, but it's not as good as 100% blind. It's only 15% chance. This is 100% blind. Always proccing, multiple enemies hitting me. Really useful. Then we're trying out Unyielding and we're trying out Unabating. I don't know how this is working. I might switch out Unabating for like an Ignite. And the reason why is we use nodes in the tree like Incendiary, which gives us 30% increased damage against burning enemies, right? And that's from Ignite and whatnot. So it sort of makes sense to run an Ignite setup on that because it's almost like an auto trigger Ignite that you don't need to worry about. Like there is a Helm that does that, but we lose too much defense. This is a really easy way to get constant Ignite. That being said, also, if we were running like a Magma Orb or whatever the equivalent is, that would actually be a really good way to sustain having like multiple projectiles, and that's also another build I want to try. Now, we're also running Culling Strike on this. So basically, enemies hit us, they cull, and then the overkill damage from our 2 damage auras from Herald of Blood and our Herald of Ash pop off and just explode enemies around us as well. So we have a bit of a defensive layer sort of thing going on, which is why you can see me sort of roll into a T15 map like in the B-roll and just like take a shit ton of damage and basically, you know, run around like nothing's happening. So I do have Time and Need in here as a bit of a switch out skill, but I don't really use it. Now, a couple of other things. So basically we got a buff the other day in the last patch passover for Rapid Assault, and it was about 67%. Now, the beauty of Rapid Assault is the way that explosions work. So the final strike basically pops a spear in the enemy, and we get like 5,000 DPS per every spear that's in the enemy. And so basically we have that times 5 at 20% times 6. So 30,000 DPS, and the explosion hits for like something up in that vicinity, plus the explosion off our spears, and we have 2 spears that pop off as well. So the first explosion hits for like 40,000 plus 25, so it's like 70 to 80,000 DPS. And the second explosion, if it blows at the same time, is probably about 20 to 30,000 DPS, depending on how much rage you have. So we're getting somewhere into like 100, 120, 130,000 DPS at a bare minimum, not accounting for like other things that are potentially going on with the build as well. So this is why Rapid Assault's really good. Basically, you land a spear in the enemy, and then so you want to hit 5 spears or 6 spears in the enemy, and then you want to hit it with your explosive spear. So you basically go boop, 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 and then you got to go pop, pop, and then you're just going to run around YOLO, or you're just going to keep hitting, and then that's going to take a big chunk of health off the enemy, and that works really well. And that's basically the mechanic. It's really meaningful combat, if you want to call it that. It's just tank combat, right? So we're going to tank a lot of hits. We're going to take some aggro. We're going to regenerate that stuff back, not think about it too much. And then we are just going to go absolutely wild ham. So right now my weapon is not that good. It's good, right? Don't get me wrong. It's got +4 to all projectiles, but it has no attack speed. If it had like even 15% attack speed, my DPS would go through the roof with Rapid Strike. And also there's some synergies in the build that I do use. So Rapid Strike, I actually figured out that if we use Unsteady Tempo, we get a double pop of the spear at the very end of the sequence. And yeah, that does insane damage. Means we put 2 spears in instead of 1. So we do a lot of damage. Actually, no, we didn't use that. We used something else. Oh, there you go. All right, we're hobbling the enemy. That's why I'm doing so much damage. I must have been trying something else. Anyway, Unsteady Tempo, 100% really good to use on that. Outside of that, we also, people are asking me, how the hell are you getting frenzy charges? I simply use Combat Frenzy with Profusion, right, which is a monk's configuration. And then basically with Rapid Assault, I use Martial Tempo, I use Pin, and I use Lockdown. And that generates lock or pin. And basically what it says here, gain a frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy no more than once every 4.4 seconds, which is how you can see me sustain a lot of the big exploded spears that explode on impact. That's basically how I do it. I'm trying to look for other ways to get around that, but that seems to work really well. Then obviously we've got Herald of Blood, Herald of Ash, and that's basically all the stuff that we use in the build. And Cull the Weak as well is really useful, so we use this in particular for bosses. We just rip the boss, right? I do have Behead in here, which is pretty useless, and Defy, which again, pretty useless. Like, I don't really think it does that much. I think if we added like another modifier or something in here that increased damage, it would do more sort of impact. But basically that's the whole way that the build works essentially. Anyway, let's get into the gear and talk about all the gear that I now have in the build and how I acquired it and crafted it and whatnot. Okay, so as far as gear goes, there's a few unique items that are actually pretty cheap to get. There's one that's probably not cheap because I crafted it myself, so you're just gonna have to chance it. But anyway, let's get into it. So basically I'm using the Hollow Mask, and the reason why is the flat 15% physical damage reduction. I got really, really lucky with this, and I managed to corrupt a 27% spirit modifier onto this. Now, if you can't do that, you're probably going to have to drop like Wind Dancer or something like that, or you're going to have to find that somewhere else in your build, or you're just going to have to corrupt away until you can, or get a helm. Don't use this helm, use a different helm, and get spirit if you can roll that on the helm. Otherwise, corrupted chest somewhere else, like an amulet, something that you can get spirit into, but you will need an extra 27% spirit to make this run, or sorry, an extra 20 spirit. Otherwise you're going to have to make a choice as to which auras you're going to be rolling out with. Now I do use Zoph's Blood. This gives me fire exposure to everything. It gives me tons of life. This isn't a Abyss roll, this is just like a one divine item, I think now. If I no Okay, that's not responding. So basically this is a one exalt item, sorry. So this is really cheap. It's like 1 to 4 exalts. You should be able to get it really easily now. Now shield, I do have like high levels of block chance. It is corrupted, so I don't really do anything. I do have max lightning, but the stat that you're looking for is additional physical damage reduction. Now ideally I would want fire max res, because basically how my ascendancy works is I convert 25% of my physical damage to fire damage, and then basically if I've overcapped my reses, then I reduce my physical damage profile. So I really want a shield that can do that. I just realized it cycles night and day in the thingo. And then basically, yeah, I just have some jewels in there, nothing crazy. Rings, I got rarity rings, so I have about 66% rarity on this build, and they basically just have flat damage, life, strength. They're not that good of rings, to be honest with you. You can get way better rings than these. Like fire damage on hits, basically what you want. Fire res. Anything else, I'd rather not be running rarity, but unfortunately in Path of Exile 2, as it is now, you need rarity to be able to get any sort of drops out of the game, full stop. Now, chest, I'm just running a stock standard ornate plate. Quite frankly, this is a pretty bad chest. You're looking for a good life regeneration implicit roll, and then basically I'm just sort of, I managed to corrupt it, and you just want to corrupt it because you want, like, you know, phys damage reduction is probably the highest valued. But basically, this is just there for shits and gigs. Basically, you're going to be relying on your ascendancy, right? Which is why I like the Smithy Guitar, because it has the best kit on the ascendancy for defense. Now the spear I've got one that arguably has a pretty good amount of DPS, right? But you can get way better. Ultimately, you want flat physical damage. You want added fire damage if you can get it. Level 2 projectile skills, which is going to increase the damage of your explosive spear. And you also want to have like attack speed on it too. If you can get accuracy, even better. But you know, I don't really care too much about accuracy. And then you're just going to chuck a greater iron rune in there and Bodrog. I think they're like 5 exalts right now, or 7 exalts, something like that. Glove-wise, same deal. +2 to melee skills would be ideal because that's going to upgrade your rapid assault as well. But basically, we've got a boar talisman. We get 1 rage on hit. I actually don't think that's that good. We're probably better off putting another life rune, greater body rune in there, to be honest with you, because we generate rage anyway via other means. 1 on hit really does nothing for us. But basically, fire res, if you can get attack speed, even better. Rarity again, because we need rarity, and that's basically it. Now, next week, the belts get upgraded, and we get an implicit charm slot, which means this belt is going to be totally out of date, so I'll update the build then. Basically, we just got life. I'd rather have life regeneration. I'm probably going to upgrade this belt in not too long. Most likely with fire res on it. And then basically, yeah, that's it. Like, this belt actually looking at as garbage, so we can do way better than that. And then I ended up moving away from using the boots that I was using, which were the trample toes, because I just didn't notice the benefits of it. I got a lot more out of having flat regeneration, stun threshold, flat strength, and flat life. So I just went with that. Like, these have a decent amount of armor, 25, or actually 29% movement speed because I corrupted them and I lucked out. And yeah, that's basically it. Now, also use silver charms because slows are a pain in the butt, but situationally, you just use whatever charm you need to basically get you over the line. And then, like, same with flasks. I really just don't care much about mana flasks at all. You don't need it, so, you know, we're using blood magic, so it's irrelevant. But yeah, anyway, that's basically it for the gear. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, so for skill setups, this is the fun part. So we don't need time and need. I was testing this, so you won't need this. Explosive Spear. We now have 5 links on this. So Explosive Spear, Primal Armament, Overabundance. So we have 2 spears that we can throw at the enemy at any one point in time. Fire Infusion and Retreat. Retreat's really useful because you're going to be using Rapid Strike a lot. So if you've used Rapid Strike, you get 25% projectile damage boost, which is going to give you a huge amount of damage on this setup. We then use Herald of Ash, we use Magnified Effect, we use Fire Mastery, and we also use Acrimony, and this is just going to reduce life regeneration of enemies that end up getting sort of exploded on by the overkill damage. We do use Bloodhound's Mark. This is just to give us more damage. I haven't really done anything support-wise with this, so if you're a little smarter than me, you can definitely do that. Herald of Blood just gives us flat base physical damage, and it also gives us the bleed explode sort of thing going on. So I have Rusted Spikes on it. I have Reach as well. And I also have Maim. Now, as to whether or not this is doing anything relevant, like significant, I need to test this a bit more, but it seems to be working. Then I have Combat Frenzy. We need this to generate Frenzy Charges and Profusion. Cola Weak with Behead and Defy. Rapid Assault, which is a secondary attack skill, which we need to proc our Explodey Spears. So basically we use this with Pin, Martial Tempo, Lockdown, and Unsteady Tempo, so we get a lot more damage out of it. We use Spearfield as our rage generator, so we use Bludgeon, Rage, and Arm's Length. And the reason why we use Bludgeon and Arm's Length is because we use Knockback. And Knockback is actually a defense strategy in Path of Exile 2 that you can deploy to get away with all sorts of issues in the game. So basically I use Knockback a lot, in particular on bosses. I actually want to make a Spearfield build itself with Armor Break. So if you want to see me do that, let me know in the description below. And then finally we have Wind Dancer, which obviously I've explained. So we have Blind, we have Unyielding, we have Culling Strike, and we have Unabating, which is basically our gem setups. So as far as our Ascendancy tree, I had to make a fair few adjustments to this because it just wasn't doing what I needed it to do, damage-wise. Some advice from some viewers was to spec into the spear nodes, and that was actually good advice. So yeah, that was actually a real game changer. So anyway, basically we have our 3rd Ascendancy. So we have all up. We have Coal Stoker as the 1st Ascendancy that will 2nd Ascendancy that we take. Sorry, 1st Ascendancy, first ascendancy points that we take is leather bindings and tantalium oil alloy. Sorry. And then the third ascendancy is molten symbol and flowing metal. This gives us +5 to overcap, and it also gives us 25% physical damage of hits taken as fire damage. Basically, this is just like a really good configuration. I can't remember the Cloak of Flame. It's basically built in. It's a lesser Cloak of Flame, but it's super powerful for this setup. Then we're coming down, we're getting Defender's Resolve up into Mass Hysteria. We're probably going to get these regeneration nodes and get Mass Rejuvenation as well. Down into the Lay Siege node, and I think I might pick up Blurred Motion as well, because attack speed does benefit this build, but I may change my mind depending on things. Then we come and get Unstoppable Barrier, up into Unbending. We don't need a Resolute Technique in this build. We could take it, but I don't think there's a huge advantage to it DPS-wise, at least I haven't noticed it. Then we need Beef, obviously. Now you can come up and get Blade Catcher. This is actually pretty useful, and we'll probably go here when we get more points. And then Crushing Verdict. Now, we want to go all the way down, and obviously pay attention to Dex nodes. We are Dex deficient, so we have to make that up, so we can't have as much strength in this build. Now, my rubies, or my jewels that I run, are basically Life Regeneration, Block Chance, and Penetrate Fire Resistance. So that's on every single one. Then we have Incendiary, and we have Smoke Inhalation, so Pen, and also Ignite, and then damage against burning enemies from the Ignites. And then basically Crushing Verdict, this is going to give us area damage, and then we're taking Authority, which gives us AoE, which is why my AoE sort of pops off. Up into Sand in the Eyes, this is blind and attack speed, which is really useful. Attack speed is really good at Rapid Strike to proc. Then we come up and we grab Shield Expertise. This is just giving us more block chance at the end of the day. And then these spear nodes are amazing. So basically up into Focus Thrust, Precision Point, and Roll and Strike. Now, Focus Thrust, 75% increased melee damage while surrounded. So the more enemies that are around you, you do more damage with your rapid strikes, and 40% increased projectile damage while there are no enemies within 3 meters. Which is basically, if you stand a little bit back from the enemy when you're fighting it, in particular bosses, you're going to do 40% increased damage. Then I take Acceleration because I really like this node. This is just like straight movement speed and 16% skill speed, which is really friggin' good. We can do a lot with this setup, to be honest with you, with spears. It works amazingly. And then we come back up and we're going to grab Prism Guard. This is going to give us Overcap Fire Res, which is going to deal with our physical damage that's inbound. And we also grab Blood Magic, because Blood Magic. There's no mana management in this build because I don't have time for that crap. So basically we just make sure we have enough regeneration. About 275 works, 500's amazing. 500 feels insane. And I reckon we can get that eventually with some gear adjusting and stuff like that. Anyway, that's it for the skill tree. So this will all be in the Mobalytics link below and everything, and the POB. But if you have any questions, feel free to chuck it down in the comments and let me know. Anyway, overall, I hope this build is helping you if you're having fun. I challenge you, instead of getting wrapped up with all the creators that are moaning because they can't play the same build they played in the 0.1, the game's not in a good state. Let's call a spade, right? It's not in a good state. However, if all you're doing is complaining and not learning how the game works, you're not really going to improve. And so when I first played I started mucking around with playing high defense characters off stream, in 0.1. So I was prepared when I came into this, and then I'd leveled this up, and I've had a lot of fun playing something that's not meta. I'm obviously up in T15s. I'm, progressing through the game pretty easily. I think I'm one of the only builds outside of guys that are following the build that is playing this type of setup, but you can get off meta skills to work. It just requires a little problem solving to get through it and a little bit of time. Anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel, and until next time, I will see you guys later on.